Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this quick video in which I'll be sharing with you 6 simple tools or keys to help simplify your approach to meditation. So for me, meditation is one of the simplest, most accessible and most profound ways of evolving on our spiritual path, but also supporting, us through the various challenges that might arise as we go through our process of healing and expansion. So a lot of the time, I hear people say, I can't meditate. I just can't meditate. And what I've found is that so often this is because we put expectations on ourselves. We think that meditation should feel a certain way or be done in a certain way, when it's actually a lot more flexible and less rigid than we often tend to think. A marathon runner doesn't expect to, run a marathon on their first day of training. And, so they go and they train and day by day they'll do longer and longer distances. And the same can be said for meditation. When you first sit down to practice meditation, you don't need to expect yourself to stay there for an hour and to access, a state of Zen in the first 5 minutes. And in fact, any stretch of centered connection, inner connection and presence is really beneficial to our state of peace, not just mentally, but also our physiological well-being. So I know I feel like I could talk on this for a long time, and that's because I am really passionate about the benefits and what's available to us when we explore this really potent practice, meditation. And meditation does come in many forms, which I won't go into for the purpose of this transmission. But today, I'm doing this actually to accompany a fact sheet, which is also available for download, free download. But I wanted to just share and elaborate a little bit more on the points that I make in that sheet. So I do have that. So I will be referring to my notes as we move through this process, through this conversation. So typically there are these are the most common complaints that I've heard people raise in conversation, and that I in my own practice have encountered as well. So the first point that I want to affirm for you is that resistance is natural. As I mentioned, the marathon runner, he doesn't quit because he can't run however many kilometers it is in his first session, his or her first session. And similarly, we don't want to give up and we don't want to quit, the first time we sit down to meditate, if we find it challenging. The thinking mind, which is, the part of us that is dominated by thoughts, often called the monkey mind. The thinking mind is in place to keep us safe. It's there to solve problems. And very rarely, if ever, in our lives have we experienced real space and real quiet, because we're always doing, we're always, there's always something to solve or to plan or to design, we're always on the go. And it's almost as though our society has invalidated the beauty of stillness and of spaciousness. So, that's why this spaciousness, if we sit to meditate, can become uncomfortable, and we will resist. Our thinking mind will resist. Thinking mind also loves the familiar. So because this spaciousness isn't familiar, it tries to fill it with stuff. So we sit down and we focus on our breath, and then all of a sudden we start thinking about what the shopping list is, or what time do we have to get the kids, or any number of stuff. It really does throw up anything it can to draw you out of that. And so this resistance is natural, but it's also a sign that you're doing something right. And if you feel that there's a resistance, the urge to get up and walk away, often that's because you perhaps are making some progress into connecting more deeply with a part of yourself, a spaciousness within yourself, which hasn't perhaps been readily available before. So the second point is in preparation. Now, I could talk about a lot of aspects in preparation. Obviously, we want to approach our meditation from a relaxed state, but we don't have to be relaxed when we sit down. So habit and ritual are really supportive, I suppose, methods to use to help induce a meditative state. So things like having a regular cushion and a regular blanket that you use in your meditation space, setting it up in the same corner each time you sit down. Perhaps the ritual of putting on a particular song or a particular playlist, soft music. Perhaps the ritual of lighting a candle and then sitting down and wrapping your shawl around you. Perhaps the ritual of starting with those 3 deep breaths. So as you begin, as your body, it's all very subconscious, this. So we're kind of programming our subconscious mind now, our vessel, to know that when we do these actions, when we take these actions, we light the candle, we wrap ourselves up, we sit on this cushion. When we do that, it knows that it's time to drop into meditation. And it does take, obviously, a little time to build that muscle, but it can be a really helpful way of, if you've had a particularly stressful day at work and you've got this habit in place and you come home and you sit down, the mind will naturally know that it's okay to still a little bit. It does, obviously the mind is still the mind, but this just invites us into that space a little more readily as we develop our practice. So the third point I want to make is just about setting a timer. This might sound a bit unmeditative or a bit, a bit attached to the thinking mind. And it is, because we're trying to appease the habits of the thinking mind by doing this. So if you sit down and you set a timer, there are actually two aspects why this is really good. So the first is, well, they're both related to the thinking mind. But the first is that when you sit down or when you're in meditation, one of the forms of resistance I find is actually, oh, how long have I been here? Am I done yet? Oh, I wonder what time it is. I'm not going to be late for this. Or, is it time to do this? So if we don't create a clear structure and framework, and this does carry on a little bit from the habit and ritual thing, by creating this framework, this holding containment where we know that we've got, say, 20 minutes available to meditate before we need to do anything else. We can set our timer for that 20 minutes. And then anytime the thinking mind throws up a thought about time and thinks, oh, maybe I'm going to be late, you can counter that by knowing that you're going to be alerted when the time is up, when the time is complete. So the other good thing about setting a timer, especially early on, is that our minds will tend to say, oh, it's been ages. It's been ages. Surely it's time to get up now. And even if you set the timer for 5 minutes and you can make that commitment to yourself to sit there for 5 minutes, to sit there until you hear that timer go off, then that's supporting you in holding that space. And the beautiful thing is that then if you choose to commit to strengthening your practice, so to speak, you might do 5 minutes for a week, you might do 10 minutes for a week, and then you might try and take it up to 15 minutes. And so in doing so, you know that you've got this structure within which you can completely surrender, because meditation is really about that letting go of judgment and surrendering to the presence and being in that space. So yes, I do love setting a timer. It means that I know that I can completely commit to being there for as long as I've selected to be there. So the fourth point I was going to make is about guided meditations, and this kind of connects with the timer thing. So guided meditations are great, especially if you're finding your mind's particularly chattery or you get distracted easily, or you meet that resistance, which I talked about. So with guided meditations, there are many, many different forms of meditation. But for today, I'll stick to the two types where we've got visualization and we've got what I call presence or possibly mindfulness. The visualizations are great. They're fun. They can take us on wonderful adventures, potentially healing. And I'm an advocate for both. But I do also encourage you to explore meditations based in stillness and presence, those that guide you through your present moment experience, perhaps of being aware of any sensations, noticing the breath, feeling into the body and being really in the moment and the presence of what is. And that just, it brings a different element of connectedness to the self. And the visualization takes us out of the moment into, I suppose, a projection, whereas presence meditations will keep us in the moment. And to me, this cultivates a much deeper connection to our inner being and our ability to flow and intuit from our higher self. So the fifth point I've got here is to stop judging yourself. And all of this, what I mentioned in the beginning about, we have these expectations that we should be able to experience something, that meditation should come easily to us, and that we should find it easy. And if we're not finding it easy to sit still, then we're doing it wrong, or something's wrong, or I just can't meditate, quote. So meditation is a bit of a paradox. It's the discipline and the letting go. And so in the space of non-judgmentality, if that's the word, meditation, the presence meditation, is a continual act of noticing when we've been taken away by our thoughts, maybe when we've been distracted. And in the noticing, we're given the opportunity to come back to the meditation, our commitment to the moment. And if it's so easy to find the monkey mind, takes us out of our presence or our meditation. And I've heard many people do this, oh, I've ruined it, I'm done. And we get up and walk away, instead of noticing it with loving compassion, knowing that it's part of the process, it's part of the practice, is in noticing that our thoughts have attracted our attention. And then we choose to bring our attention back to our present moment, to the meditation that we are currently practicing. If we get judgmental, we start a whole different commentary on how hard meditation is, how we'll never get it right, and then it, literally like a monkey chasing its tail, we can go round and round and round. So be gentle with yourself. There's no need to judge your experience. Your experience is perfect. It's about, meditation is more about making the choice to stay and the discipline to stay in that moment. Like I said, that structure of, I'm choosing to be here for this time, and I'm choosing to deliberately come back moment by moment to my attention in this present moment. One of my meditation teachers actually said, and it was such a beautiful permission slip to experience meditation however was present for us, because day by day it will change, our experience will change. And he said, there might be days when you have 10 seconds of space, 10 seconds of clarity, 10 seconds of no thought in your meditation, and that's a great day. Very rarely will we spend 20 minutes in complete, spacious, thoughtless bliss. It's the practice. And that's where the joy comes. That's where, we soothe our body and our nervous system response. It's like our thinking mind is the impudent toddler. And every time it goes to run away, we simply, comfort it, contain it, and draw its attention back to present moment. So the sixth and final point, and this is similar to the last one, is simply that thoughts are going to arise, and that is okay. Let yourself notice the thoughts. And again, this great misconception that meditation is supposed to be completely without thought. It's not. It's good if it is, but meditation is about noticing the thought and continuing to choose to step back into the observer of that thought, instead of identifying as the thought or as the monkey chasing that monkey, as the terminology goes. We simply notice it, and often it can be a healing or very, very insightful and contemplative practice to allow the observer to consciously observe the thoughts that are arising, because they might actually point us in a direction that we need to resolve. And so if our thoughts, if we keep having a consistent thought distract us, we can maybe get curious about that. Or, once we're done with the meditate, we can notice it, come back to our center. And then maybe that might give us an opportunity to explore healing of that area down the track. So they are, we just tend to come back to the present moment, our breath, the sensations we're noticing, any sounds that are coming to us, and with non-judgmentalness, with patience, persistence, and compassion. It's all just part of this wonderful experience. So, I do hope that this has helped you in some way. Another parting point I do just wish to make is make meditation work for you. For me, I love sitting in meditation in stillness, and I would love to support everyone in finding a practice like that. But, meditation can happen in movement as well. We can find that meditative space. You can go for a walk in nature. We have walking meditations where we are particularly mindful or present of our experience, connecting with the earth, connecting with the sounds and everything around us. So make it work for you. Don't judge yourself. Don't put yourself in a box. You don't need to experience it a certain way, but curiosity is key, and allowing yourself to commit to it is also key, which is why these structures are really, really helpful. So any practice in consciousness will help us to become more in touch with our true limitless nature. So, beloveds, I hope that this video has supported you in some way. Please do like or subscribe to my channel if you found this supportive. And you can also check out other ways to work with me at www.ruthkemp.co. So details are in the comments. Bye.